Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wave Channel 5, Greenville Public Access Television. As tonight we meet with members of the Friends of Harmon Field Committee and take a look at the project that they have foreseen here and some things we want to do to make this athletic complex here at Greenville High School and the Greenville City Park one we can all be proud of. I'm Alex Warner, along with cameraman Nick Schmidt. Tonight we're here with Athletic Director Dusty Yanks and School Board member and I guess you're a founding member of the Friends of Harmon Field Project, Dave Ernst. And Dave, let's talk just a little bit. Of course, most of you folks out there realize that the Harmon Field Complex started back in the 1937, the fall of 1937 is the first year that this stadium came into being, although football had been played here at this site since back in the mid-20s. And Dave, let's talk just a little bit about some of the history of this stadium.
Well, as we all know, the WPA project built the stadium and it opened in 1937. The longevity of concrete itself is not made to last 80 years from that standpoint. So that's one of the initial concerns that we've looked at the project, just the longevity, the safety of it. The total project includes a renovated or replaced stadium, a new 8-lane track, a new field surface for Harmon Field itself, and then a field house that'll house two-sided concession stands, locker rooms, coaches area, officials areas, and a training room. Something our stadium needs.
We're going to come back and break each one of those down as it comes in phases, if I'm not mistaken, on how this project goes. Now, Dusty, you're just a newcomer to the ranks there as athletic director. You've been at other schools. What was your first thoughts when you came in and you saw, and then first of all, heard about the Friends of Harmon Field project, and then when you actually saw the facility itself?
Well, when I heard about the Friends of Harmon Field project, obviously I was excited to be a part of something like that. Obviously, as it's been stated, keeping tradition, but starting new traditions in the same sense. Now, as far as seeing the facility and being a part of this facility, obviously being from the area, I knew about the facility. Actually, I played on this field when I was in Pee Wee football in my days at Covington. So I knew about the facility and obviously had heard about the project and some of the issues that have arose with the concrete, which I dealt with myself while I was the athletic director at Bradford with our bleachers there. We ran into a similar situation with concrete deteriorating and ended up having to replace one side of the stadium bleachers there as well to be compliant. So excited to get started on this project. Tried to start attending meetings as soon as I could during the summer once I got in here and got a little comfortable. And now just trying to help out in any way I can, whether that's help fundraise or attend meetings, relay information within the school district itself and to community members that approach me about it, but also having an input in this facility as being the athletic director. I'll be spending a lot of time out here with our athletic teams as well. So it's an exciting time, and it's going to be an exciting project once we get moving on it.
Now, of course, Greenville has come back into the Greater Western Ohio Conference. And, Dave, when you take a look at the facilities around the other schools in the Greater Western Ohio Conference, we have sadly fallen behind the times.
Oh, definitely. And basically, we have now expanded to a 20-team conference of the GWAC into 4 divisions. And Greenville at this time is the last remaining member of the GWAC that has a one-facility, multi-purpose facility that's grass, which is great when you have nice, dry weather. As we found out the last week and a half, when you don't, then you shut the facility down. And so that's why we're looking towards to upgrade the facility for a multi-purpose facility and looking at the field turf. That way we can use it rain, snow, shine, and then also with a secondary facility just in case.
When we talk about the usage of this field, Dusty, over the course of this fall, just alone this fall, not counting track in the spring, but just this fall, how many contests are scheduled to take place here?
We will have nearly 60 contests scheduled in just over 4 months between junior high football, high school football, and boys and girls soccer. So it's hard to maintain, and that sometimes becomes the issue if you get wet weather, getting those contests in, but also being able to do proper maintenance on it, getting it mowed when it needs to be mowed, watering when it needs to be watered, but obviously not trying to overwater it at the same time. So it becomes challenging at times, and like Mr. Ernst said, we kind of ran into that issue this past week when we had 4 contests in less than 24 hours on the field and ran into a couple rain showers.
Like I say, our timing's impeccable on this show because the field has been closed for almost 10 days now, and hopefully we'll have this ready for this coming Friday night's football game with Trotwood.
Yes, that is that is what we're all planning for. We, like I said, had those 4 games this past weekend and ran into some weather. We called in MAC Athletics, who are athletic facility and turf specialist. They're doing some quick patchwork, if we want to call it that way, for us. And with that, we needed to shut the facility down, reschedule some soccer games, move junior high football back to the north end of the stadium where the youth football plays. So, yeah, we're going to go 13 days without anybody being on the field except for the guys from MAC Athletics.
So we're talking about the field, and we're going to review each one of these 4 phases involved in this. 4 phases, correct?
Correct.
And we're also going to talk more about the stadium. But another thing people don't realize is this track was a cinder track when it first started, and of course it's been improved to an all-weather surface. But Dave, it's tough to get people to come in here now to actually have an invitational, even just a dual track meet almost.
Well, basically, it's a 6-lane track for the most part. Obviously, on the backstretch, lane 6 is for tall, slender kids.
Exactly.
But to host a full-size invitational is just not time constraint. That you just can't do it. You have to have more and more heats. Even a junior high invitation that used to hold 20 to 30 teams, time prohibitive, you just can't do it. So teams go to other places where they can run it quicker. The difference between an 8-lane track and a usable 5-lane track that we really have here will cut your meet time in half. People like to come to meets that are run on time and run quickly and efficiently. Now, Coach Plessinger does a great job in the high school meets, but yet with 3 more usable lanes, he's going to cut his time even more.
And also, some of you said, well, this track was renovated, it was restored and refurbished, and I think, well, yeah, that's been about 15 years ago. And when we take a look at this, there's certain lanes and certain spots on some of these lanes are getting torn up pretty well.
It gets a lot of use. It gets a lot of use between our junior high and our high school track program, and it's obviously open 24/7 for the public to walk on it. It just needs updated.
Okay, so let's get started here. How did this Friends of Harmon Field Committee come about anyhow, David?
Kind of a unique story. Got a phone call by one of my friends that said, hey, we want to start something. We have something that we needed, and let's get together. So the 4 people, I guess you would call us, would be Matt Light and John McGreevy. And then Dustin Lease and myself met at the Double M Diner, said this is something we like to do. Pretty prestigious place to stop and have breakfast, but great breakfast. A little plug there for you, Marcella. But yeah, we met a couple weeks in a row and said, this is something we need to do. The bond levy is passed for the schools. We saw that we needed to upgrade the school facilities for the kids in the community, but our athletic facilities were lacking. So we took it upon ourselves to earmark and find out what we needed to do and started forward from there. So we're looking about a little over 2 years now that we met and continued on.
How many people have joined in? Because I know you've got quite a few people who are involved in that other than the original 4.
Counting our steering committee, our original 4, and then our subcommittee, our core group, we probably have upwards towards 30 members right now.
Okay. And this is a 501(c), correct?
501c3, that's a tax deduction. Any money that you donate towards Friends of Harmon Field is completely tax deductible. So we will take care of that part, get you the paperwork that you need to write off at the end of the year.
Now, as athletic director and coming into this situation, then you become an honorary member of this committee, correct?
Yes, I have. And it's been fun sitting in those meetings with those guys, tossing around different ideas, being able to use some of my experiences as well that I've had, and looking at the plans and the proposals and discussing the bids and different things that we've seen as far as paperwork. And we had a very interesting meeting when we were talking about the track, trying to figure out the different types of track surfaces, because obviously that was new to a number of us. So, yeah, it's been exciting to get started on this.
Well, let's start breaking this down now, Dave, because we know there's 4 phases. You have a pretty good estimate of what each of the phases will cost. So let's talk about the very first thing as this funding hopefully becomes available, and that's why we're bringing this to you folks out there. We hope you become interested enough that you can take some pride in the Greenville community and the Greenville schools and help this group make this dream fulfilled here. Let's talk about what's the first step once the funding starts coming in.
Well, we looked at the entire project, and we tabbed 4 things that we needed that we thought were important to the program. One was to update, whether it's through renovation or replacement of the stadium, just because of the safety factor and also the ease. If you've been in the stadium, you know the angle of the seats. Sometimes it's tough to sit over the taller guy that sits in front of you or the person who wears the hat. The other thing is our track. We saw that we needed to move to a updated regulation 8-lane track. Our kids deserved it and our program deserved it. The next thing was our field surface. and then a field house right now that we have some place for the visiting teams and our home teams to go during either halftime or before or after. Once we looked at those areas that needed to be done or rectified, what stages that we needed to do first? Well, the first thing we needed to do is get the track out of here and move it to the north side of the facility. We couldn't do anything with the bleachers and or the field house till we moved the track. So that got designated as phase 1. Immediately north of here, where Pee Wee football and the baseball play, will be an 8-lane track, complete with press box, lights, irrigation, and bleachers. Tab for that is around $1.2, $1.3 million.
So this will be the first step, first phase along the way. Now, let's clear this up, because a lot of people I know over the years have always thought that field north of the football facility, north of Harmon Field, as well as the football field itself, was school-owned. Well, for many, many years, it was not. It was part of the Greenville City.
For many, many years, this was a donated area by the Harmon Trust. And due to Matt Light's diligence, found out the last surviving member of the Harmon Trust died approximately 8 to 10 years ago, so there's no more Harmon Trust. So that's how it was gifted to the schools, or gifted to the city. And the schools already had a great relationship with the city. They could use the facilities, maintain the facilities, but it was still the city's. About 5-6 years ago, the city says, here's the facility for you. You take care of it and you maintain it anyhow, so it became school property. So we dispelled the whole myth of Harmon facility. You couldn't do anything. And just so people understand, there was nobody named Harmon in town that gave us the land. It was a group that I believe at last count was 28 or 32 facilities starting at the East Coast and going through Missouri.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, Miamisburg and the GWAC, Miamisburg both have Harmon Field, and Miamisburg just put a new stadium up.
Yes, they did. Miamisburg did just renovate their stadium, field turf, 6,100 seats that they purchased from the Daytona Motor Speedway, which, talking to their athletic director, since I've gotten to know him here over the summer, was an interesting part of the project. Knowing that their seats were coming from Daytona, but their construction guys were in Miamisburg trying to build pillars and get concrete set the proper way. And I believe there was a hiccup along the way with the architects, and they had to make a slight adjustment. But, yeah, that's a unique feature to that stadium. Unfortunately, I haven't been down there to see it yet. I know they just opened it up Friday night with their first home game there. So it'll be fun to see that one, though.
Yeah. So that's a Harmon Field. I think there were, like you say, 28, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Okay, so $1.2 million, give or take, for phase 1 out north of the existing field. Phase 2.
Phase 2 is initially going to be the field turf surfaces inside Harmon itself. And we're looking anywhere between $900,000 and $1.1 million. Obviously, that comes in a lot of specs of what we do to the field, custom design, and things like that. One thing I want to make sure and earmark, the school board of Greenville already set up a resolution last June, I believe. Once Friends of Harmon Field raises $1 million, they've allocated $400,000 for the project. Okay. Currently, not counting that $400,000, we're right about $500,000. We did receive a $250,000 grant from Ohio, and basically on behalf of Jim Beakey. So we're on our way. After the field turf, we're looking at the field house itself. Initial designs will set it at a multi-facility usage between the two facilities itself, so it can actually use the track and the field turf. You can go to either one. That way, locker rooms open up both sides, concession stand will be available for both sides, and then also possibly a ticket booth to go with that as well.
I know one thing that right now is just, it just blows my mind. It used to be back, and I'm dating myself, it used to be locker rooms were under the east bleachers, and there was an outside entrance from the field down underneath. And then on the other side, as part of that Works Public Administration back in 37, they put the old swimming pool in, and so the teams would just go down. Now they've got to walk all the way back over to the high school, and that takes a little while to get there and come back, and narrow time and halftime. Let's talk about this field turf we're putting in. Because a lot of people think, well, you know, all you got to do is mow the grass here. We've talked about that a little bit. There's a lot of maintenance work involved in a grass field. But the field turf, how long does that last, and drainage and things of that nature? Let's talk about the field turf.
Well, field turf will last if it's properly maintained, because there is still maintenance with field turf. Right. Maintenance isn't daily. It isn't even monthly sometimes. Most schools that I've talked to that have field turf are on a summer schedule. As far as maintenance, they'll contract that service out. They'll come in, they fluff the turf to make sure it's all standing upright and doesn't start to lay flat. pack more rubber pellets in it if needed, and we'll also spray it to sanitize the turf. But as far as the field turf lasting, you're going to get anywhere from 12 to 15 years. And that's making sure that you're on that maintenance plan, which I'm sure that will become part of our routine here when field turf is finally installed.
Now, as you take a look at these different field turfs and everything, you haven't narrowed it down to one final one yet, have you, or not? I know one thing that just in the last year, it seems like, been some concern with the rubber pellets and so forth. They're worried about health hazards. Have you looked into that?
I've looked into it. I haven't found anything that will link it to a great number of people. I've read one story where one individual, they're linking to his conditions with field turf. It's hard for me to agree with that when every major college and almost every major professional football stadium now has some sort of artificial turf. And there are a number of different styles and types of turf. Actually, tomorrow I'm headed down to Cincinnati for an all-day seminar with the MOTS group to talk about field turf and everything that goes into planning and installing and maintaining. And with the field turf, they have recently installed a number of field turf fields in this area, and we've played on 2 of them now this year at Wilmington and at Stebbins. The MOTS group did both of those facilities in the last few years.
I kind of wanted to put that rumor to rest because there had been a little controversy over that. Also, I think rubberized pellets around playground equipment at schools, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so we've got the new track in Stadium Phase 1, second phase coming in here. Track, everything gets ripped up, new field turf in. Was the third phase then the concession stand, locker rooms, and restrooms?
Correct. And if I could go back just for a second on the field turf itself, one thing a lot of people might not understand or realize, we currently do not have a regulation high school soccer field here at the stadium. That is a minimum of 60 yards wide by 120 yards in length. Currently, we've got a 53.5 yard wide football field, which extends to as far as we go for soccer. So we don't even have a regulation soccer field. That's something, if you're going to host that, you need to have a regulation field. And now it can obviously go up to 80 yards in width and 130 yards in length. That's not feasible on a football field, but at least the width would be. I do want to point out one thing, and I know we'll get into funding later, Alex. We had a nice little small committee meeting on how we fundraise for this and ideas. Idea came out, and it was actually Coach Schaefer's brilliant idea. We're going to sell deeds for every square yard on the football/soccer field. Currently, we've sold both goal lines and the center field and the 50-yard marker. So we're looking for up to 9,200 square yards of turf. You can buy your own, you can buy an end zone, you can buy 10 yards, whatever you like in increments on our friends of HarmonField.com. You get a hold of us and let us know what would you like. It is going somewhat quicker than we thought it was going to go. It's kind of a nice little thing. We'll have a spreadsheet and a grid out there to say Dusty Inks owns these 10 yards and Alex Warner owns this end zone. So it'd be a nice little advertising program.
We might have to rethink the end part there. Hey, listen, and we're going to have we'll talk about how they can get in touch with the committee and different funding levels, and we'll have that at the end of the show as well as we'll talk a little bit about later on. Let's go ahead now. Rumors around town. The stadium's renovated, torn down, new one's going up. What's the situation on this? Will be the final phase, correct?
Correct. We've looked at many different things. We've had people come in and look at it. How much is it going to take to refurbish? How much is it going to take to replace? And it's kind of 50-50 either way. One of the initial things of the 4 core people was we don't want to remove this beauty from the park. Whatever we do, if we refurbish this, we want to keep it just like it is. If we would tear it down and put a new stadium in here, it is still going to be bricks around so it fits into where it was supposed to be. Whatever's the safest, the most economical is basically what I can tell you at this point. We've got so many safety hazards right now in the stadium. There's places that are not safe up to code. It's not ADA compliant. So unfortunately, if someone comes with a wheelchair access, it's a tough push up to the first level of the bleachers. So it's things that we just need to do. If you've been in the concession stand for some unknown reason to work, it drips through the ceiling, which is, most people understand that's not supposed to happen. But you've got 80-plus-year-old concrete mixed in troughs by hand, not like the technology is now when you go to PepCon and get 10 yards of concrete. So it's different things that we need to make sure that this is safe, not even getting into our seating surfaces that either flake, crack, or break.
Right.
And I didn't touch on the field house too much, but the field house is something we need. Currently, the football team goes into a metal shed. The track team in weather goes to the high school into a gym. The soccer teams go to an illustrious bleacher at the end of the end zone. Football teams come to the stadium and come changed. They don't even dress here anymore because of the facility underneath the stadium. It's so much, I hate to use the word embarrassment, but the kids are embarrassed that teams come in here dressed because we don't have a place for them to go. We owe it to those kids. We owe it to the community for something them to be proud of. Currently, we don't believe that people are proud of Harmon Field and what it stands for currently. Mm-hmm. We want to get back to the way it was and create that to go forward.
And that's why we want you folks out there to really, look inside yourselves. If you're willing to commit to Greenville Pride and Harmon Field, think about making a contribution. Like I said, we'll talk about who to get in touch with a little bit later on here. When we talk about Harmon Field, we talk about these different projects. As you come in your first year, when you see other facilities in the GWalk, like Dave said earlier, we're one of the last to be able to put something out here.
Correct. And these facilities that we go to in the GWalk, and even the facilities that we go to for our non-conference games, when we traveled to Eaton this year and at Wilmington this year, these facilities are, I think the kids get excited, it's something new. It's a little flashy for the kids, which we all know kids like, but it's really something that they look forward to. These kids know what's going on, and they know what this project's about. And they're excited. I'm sure if some of them could help out and afford to do it, they would probably pitch in themselves. But it's something that is, like Mr. Ernst said, it is much needed for these kids now and the generations coming.
Dave, you guys have put together a pretty comprehensive program on funding levels and so forth. Let's just talk a little bit about, even if somebody wanted to throw in $5, every penny is going to be really appreciated, I'm sure. But you got different funding levels, correct?
Oh, definitely. And we've got levels from, and one of the great things about, and I alluded to earlier about the turf purchase, if $100 is what you can give to Harmon Field, then by all means, get on Friends of Harmon Field and say, I want to buy 1 yard of turf. If $50 is what you can do, we can do that. If you want to give $500 for 5 years, there's a project in there that you could do that and get a pledge for them and do that over 5 years. We're gonna meet your needs, whatever you want. If it's $250, or if it's a $50,000 and I want to put my name on something, or if it's $250,000, I want to put my name on something. That's something you contact us. We'll get to you. We'll send a couple representatives and meet with you personally and explain to what we're doing and what we can do for you.
You know what? For $250,000, you better more than send a couple of representatives. better be a dinner out included in that. Hey, so you say contact us, Friends of Harmon Field. Where? Websites?
I'm glad.
Phone numbers, addresses.
Friends of Harmon Field. We try to keep it as simple as possible, so it's friendsofharmonfield.com. HARMON. You can reach us via the website. You can reach us versus Twitter, Facebook. They're all on there.
All under Friends of Harmon Field.
Correct. Friends of Harmon or at friendsofharmonfield.com. So Twitter and Facebook. One of the representatives, John McGreevy, takes care of our Facebook and our Twitter account. All donations go through Greenville Federal, so we have our accounts here locally, and we are underneath the auspice of the Light Foundation, so that's where we have our 501c3.
Okay, very good. And we'll have that on the end of the show here for you folks that need to get a pen or pencil out and copy that down or whatever. Dusty, this project, we're looking at about, 4 years, 3-4 years to get this entire thing done if the funding comes through?
Yes, I believe so. Obviously, each phase is going to take time. The track will probably take the most time. That track facility over there with the track and the grass surface inside of that track and the bleachers and the press box, that's going to take some time to get in, and obviously the turf can take some time depending on weather. And once they start digging up the grass, making sure that our drainage is sufficient and the sub base is sufficient. So I'd say 3 to 4 years is probably a good estimate. Now, obviously, like Mr. Ernst said, if we get somebody with $250,000, we might speed up the process here a little bit. So that wouldn't hurt us any bit at all. So,
I think the old ministers used to say, just reach in them jeans and pull out them greens, right? Is that what we got? Don't make me holler, don't make me shout. Just turn them pockets inside out, right? Final thoughts here, David?
I think it comes down to the needs of the community, the schools, and the children. I like to echo the same thoughts that we used or the school board used when we passed the levy for the new K-8 building, the renovation of the high school. It's because the kids deserved it. Mm-hmm. We knew that we were lacking behind on safety and technology. Well, by gosh, I think it's come around again. We're lacking on safety and technology. people do always say, well, turf it's dangerous versus grass. Well, as we looked out before we did the interview, there's a couple ruts out there about 4 inches deep and about 12 inches long. You could lose a small child in a few of those. So as far as safety and technology, we're going to try to do the best we can for the school, the community, and the children.
So you folks out there, and I know a lot of you that watch these shows here on the Wave Channel 5 have attended Greenville schools, you've had kids attend, grandkids now attending, things of that nature. Think of all the memories you've had out here at Harmon Field. Not only track and football, graduation exercises, special events. They used to have the fireworks show over 4th of July here. A lot of different programs, as well as the athletic activities have gone on out here. And as Dave said earlier, and as Dusty kind of alluded to also, this is something where we can really show more community pride, not only in the schools, but in the park itself and in the stadium, of course, and just pull the Greenville community a little bit closer together. So we hope you look inside yourself and able to come up with some funding, help these folks out. These good folks have got a real good program put together here, and we hope this comes to fruition here in the next few years. So anyhow, we'll have the way you can obtain information, as well as also get in touch with the people here, the Friends of Harmon Field Committee. And on behalf of Nick Schmidt, my videographer, Athletic Director Dusty Yanks, Dave Ernst, one of the original 4 committee members, I'm Alex Warner, and thanks for listening. And again, make sure that you look inside your heart. Let's contribute to this good cause out here at Harmon Field. Good night, everybody. Thank you, guys.